Well, now they have a different type of mindset in that locker room where, all right, they have a quarterback that can galvanize this team. His ability to be not just a good player, but his ability to bring guys together. Man, they trust him. They trust he's going to do what he's going to do. They trust what he says. And plus, he has a personality that you cling to. And that's why they're beginning to start to get the success and believe not only their coaching staff, but believe in Hurts. They believe in him. And you see Jordan Mailata, from that point on, when he pushed him out of bounds, from that point on, he made it his personal vendetta to whoop Davenport's ass every single play he could. He was following him to make sure he knew that he was not pleased the way he touched his quarterback. And once you get 4 or 5 nasty guys like that on an offensive line, it's over now.
Because he's got to be here with Barrett Brooks in the middle here. So
we got to call in. We got to call him in.
Call in, man. Get the right-hander in, dude. Hey, man, it's so good to see you and everybody joining us here on this Thanksgiving week, man. I mean, I couldn't wait to do this. They asked me to do this yesterday, and I saw some of your comments that you were making about the O-line that the Eagles and their performance that they had this past weekend. But, man, I'll tell you what, that's another story, but I had to really think about doing it because you know what I was doing today? I was working on my 20-pound turkey. Hey, man, I mean, I'm going to get into Eagles here in a minute, but brother, I got to tell you, man, I said, hey, so you're trying to tell me, hang on here, man, you don't have it. I got into it with the delivery person, too. I said, right. Barrett, do I look like a 15-pound turkey, man? I'm a 20-pounder.
It don't even, it can't even come through the door unless it's 20 pounds, man. Mine is 22. Man. Mine is 22 pounds.
Absolutely, man.
I had to get there like 3 weeks in advance.
Hey, man, and my wife's stuffing, too. I said, please, man, she goes like this, too. What kind of, do a slice of pie, too? And I go, no, hunk. Right. Sills don't have slices. Guys like Barrett Brooks and myself, we have like hunks. Okay.
Yo, look at this, man. My when I like my fourth year, my third or fourth year in the league, man, all the young guys, we used to invite them to my house, because they didn't have, they're up there, they didn't really have anywhere to go, family, and I was married, so I tell them come by my house. Well, all them guys, B-Doc, all those guys come over when I was playing with the Eagles. And then, at the time, we made like 8 sweet potato pies. I mean, like 8 of them, And we turn around and Hollis Thomas, he comes. So he comes up after he gets through crushing like 4 or 5 plates of food. At the end, so everybody, we appreciate you coming by. So I look over at Hollis. Hollis had taken a pie. And it's like the aluminum that you could, you make those pies in. He takes it and he does like this. He folds the pie in half. And he crinkles up the pie pan, and he's biting. He's eating it like a taco, bro. He ate the whole pie like a taco. And I just sat there in amazement and watched him, man. I'm like, I was jealous. I didn't think about that. I didn't think of that, man. He folds the pie in half and crinkles back the aluminum, and he's crushing the pie like a taco, bro. It was crazy. It was crazy.
Man, the only other guy I've ever seen do something like that was Nate. Nate, we go out. We're at Thousand Oaks, right? And we're out there, and we're at some steak place, and I'm sitting with Nate, and Nate gets done eating this giant steak. He goes, damn, I can eat another 16-ouncer. And on the wall, it's like, if you can eat a 32-ouncer, Nate goes like this, well, give me 2 of them things, man. So they just wolfed them things down. I've never seen a bigger eater in my life than Nate Newton. That bro could play, man. I love that guy here. Let's get into the O-line, man. I'm dying to ask you, man. I mean, at the beginning of the year, Barrett, I had Gary Cobb on Monday, and he and I were saying this. I have never in my life seen a team transform in front of me like this from the beginning of the first quarter of the season to where they are now. I've never seen a team find its identity, change it, trying to go through the ups and downs. I mean, they're one of the hottest teams right now. That offensive line is now the key to the success of this team making it to the postseason. What's been the difference, you think?
You know what? The difference is, the whole identity changed when personnel allowed it to change. Now, we remember when we first started out the first game, they could run just about anything with that offensive line. They had Brooks. They had Lane, Jordan Mailata. They had Seumalo, and Kelsey. They could run anything. But then, once Brooksy went down, he was gone. And then Mailata got hurt, and they brought in Dillard. Well, number one, you're not running the ball with Dillard. Dillard is just not one of those guys that he's physical enough to run. Now, he could pass block his ass off, but he's not physical enough to really go out there and impose his will as being a run dominant guy. So he was in there. That makes running the ball out of the equation. So you couldn't run the RPOs and everything. Everything just went to hell. Also, you had Zach Ertz, who was playing 60% of the time, So me and my producer were talking about this. Ertz is not an inline blocker. He can't block the run. So with him being in there and having 60% of the reps,
he's like Jason. He's like Jason Garrett, right, Barrett? Like that kind of guy.
Yes. So he's not gonna. So they can't run the block with those two guys in the personnel. So once they turn around, they get Dillard out of there. They then put in Jordan Mailata in his natural position. Then you have a corn-fed, big offensive guard in the left guard. Now he's in there. Now you got a real run blocking left guard in there. Not Seumalo, but a real run blocking left guard. Now you can run the rock. Now you have over 700 pounds on just that left side, and then you add Dallas Goedert to the scene. So now you have Dickerson. You have Mailata, and you have Dallas Goedert there. You can run block on anybody with just those three. Lane Johnson gets healthy, comes back, and now he's cool. You got an offensive line now that's catered to running the ball. So now you have the personnel to do it. Then you activate, another runner. It just put him in a great position to now run the ball with the addition of the running backs and addition of the offensive line being together with that tight end. It just gave you a better sense of all right, this is my personnel that I can do this with. Why are you having a 385-pound offensive tackle to 6'8" pass blocking? It just doesn't make sense to me. He's going backwards. Let him go forward. Let the laws of physics take form. Allow that inertia to go one way instead of backing up. It just gives you better. Damon Dickerson double team somebody, they're double team. Believe that.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I think you're right on with this thing here, too. And I'll tell you something about the coaching staff. And, when you're in the locker room and you have a brand new coach, I'm going to give you a point here, too. My year in Dallas when Jimmy came in and they had just gotten rid of Coach Landry, there were guys in that locker room that were going, college coach, man, this guy doesn't know this. He doesn't, newbie guy. I don't know, because you have to have really blind faith in that locker room that these coaches are going to put you in a position to win. And to convince a veteran guy like yourself, who's a 10-year dude plus, and you're sitting there going, I don't know, man, I don't know. But what these coaches did, running the ball only 7 times, Barrett, 2 times at the beginning of the year.
That was a trap.
What those guys did was they went, okay, let's go to the strength of this team. Last game, they ran it 50 times. I think what they did in that locker room, they galvanized it because they said if those coaches are willing enough to change and to adapt and to go to our strengths and listen to us, that's going to bring the locker room together. And you saw Mailata on the side there. When a guy hit his quarterback, he picked him up. He's pushing guys. Guys are now fighting for each other. It's a great attitude to have. And when you play like this, right, you build a toughness up around you.
Yep. Well, Dan, you absolutely right, man. Because just to be honest, I only saw one guy fight for Carson, and that was the bodyguard.
Wow.
JP would fight for any quarterback. You know what I'm saying? But other than everybody coming up and helping up, they never helped up, Carson. And that's just because he didn't have the right, personality for that team. There's nothing wrong with Carson. Carson, he's not a bad dude, but it's like if you weren't tied in with his faith, then he really didn't have anything to say to you. He really didn't know how to really talk to you or be around you.
So you think his personality got in the way of connecting with his teammates?
It absolutely did. So it was a strong, locker room because they had veteran players there. And that's the reason why they had the success they did, because when they won the Super Bowl, he wasn't necessarily the guy that they were leaning on to really be that type of guy. They had a strong base of guys like, Chris Long, Jason Peters, all they could handle, his personality or lack thereof of personality because they were older players. So, that's how they were able to get past that and play for each other. Once that, that mainstay, that main group of guys left the locker room, and they didn't have anybody else like even Malcolm Jenkins to really hold it together. That's why it fell apart as fast as it fell apart. Well, now they have a different type of mindset in that locker room where, all right, they have a quarterback that can galvanize this team. His ability to be not just a good player, but his ability to bring guys together, man, they trust him. They trust he's going to do what he's going to do. They trust what he says. And plus, he has a personality that you cling to. And that's why they're beginning to start to get the success and believe not only their coaching staff, but believe in Hurts. They believe in him. And you see Jordan Mailata, from that point on, when he pushed him out of bounds, from that point on, he made it his personal vendetta to whoop Davenport's ass every single play he could. He was following him to make sure he knew that he was not pleased the way he touched his quarterback. And once you get 4 or 5 nasty guys like that on an offensive line, it's over now.
Oh,
it's over now. It's just like that line you saw with Nate Newton, Mark Tuinei, Eric Williams, Larry. Those guys were nasty individuals, bro.
And when you play against a line like that, it's like having one hand tied behind your back because
right.
you know what they're saying? Hey, I don't care what you do. I'm running right here off tackle. I'm running right here in the A gap, and I'm going to tell you something. I don't care what you think you're going to do.
Exactly.
We're going to run it down your throat. You brought something up that's really something that I've been thinking about with Jalen. We're going to start talking about him here in a second, too, and I'm going to go like this to you, man. Maybe his experience at Alabama and his experience at Oklahoma, what he went through last year watching the locker room and how, like you said, it was divided. The Wentz people, maybe the people, like you said, weren't following Wentz. This guy has been conditioned with that intangible where every place he walks into, Barrett, they look to him, and he's one of those guys. You know what I'm talking about. Certain guys that walk into a room, you're attracted to them because there's leadership there. And then when you start winning, hey, man, this kid here, this is what I said, and I don't know where you are on this, but I'm sold on him, and I'll tell you why. It may not be conventional. 7-step drop, you know where he is as an old lineman. He's in the pocket. He is a 2.0 version, in my opinion, of what they're doing in Baltimore. Yes. Is it conventional? No. Does he need to work on his deep pass? Does he need to work on his progressions? Barrett, those are all things young players still develop. Brady, Patrick Mahomes said it this year. I'm now learning how to read defenses better because Andy Reid is showing me. Remember when Michael Vick came to Philly? He said the number one thing that Andy Reid did for him was he taught him how to play the position. So if you could keep teaching him, get him the reps. As you know, getting the reps is the key to this whole thing. You get the reps here, I got to tell you, man, you got 11 draft choices next year. You're going to be $50 million under the cap. And get this. You owe the kid $3.6 million over the next 2 years. This is how Seattle and this is how New England were built because you were able to get the Cam Chancellors to pay the Richard Shermans in Seattle.
Exactly.
How do you feel? You think he's the guy?
I think he's a guy, but not just because of what he's doing right now, but his ability to galvanize that locker room. We talk about intangibles. Okay, he can run the ball. He's a great athlete. He's strong as an ox. So what makes him a good player is his ability to have guys rally around him, to play for him. That's his biggest attribute. And he's a gifted player as far as athleticism, but he can also throw the ball. Look at his progression now. Yeah. Okay, he threw the ball 20-something times, and that's it. But look at the quality of passes that he threw. You're talking about a guy now. I say, all right, then you need me to sit back to read the defense. Oh, I'm going to do that. So now his progression goes from 1, 2, 3, and then he goes and runs if there's nobody else open. That's something that, that you coached him to do. You coached him to read the defense. You coached him to wait for routes to develop. All right, when they didn't develop, Now I can go run too. And that's something you could, for a defensive, you know what it is to be a defensive lineman. And you have a guy, you've rushed the passer perfectly. You stayed in your lane. You're at home. But all of a sudden, he still has the ability to make you look crazy and get away from you and outrun you to the corner. It's not like you got, Tom Terrific back there who's slow as pond water. This kid can really pick him up and put him down. That's the intangible that he brings to the table. He can read defenses. He's learning to read defense. He's learning to go through progressions, and he also can get out of danger with his legs. That's hard. That's really, really hard to play against, man.
Absolutely. And you know what? And like you said, I think the reason that this is all opening up for him is because they're really with an emphasis on the running game, because when you're doing that, the lanes are more open. And, man, like you said, when he broke those dudes' ankles on that 30-yard TD run, man, I'm like this. The reason that that's open like that is because they're so dominant at the point of attack. And I'll tell you something, a Dennis Allen defense, that's Saints defense. And the D coordinator, Dennis Allen, they were only surrendering 73 yards a game going into that Eagle game, and they put up over 240 yards on them on the ground. Dude, I'll tell you, when you're
what that is?
That's crazy great.
That's the progression of this offensive coach and the offensive mindset, understanding that, all right, then, okay, I'm not going to look at the statistics. Forget the statistics. We're talking about, going against a defense that's ranked number 1 against the run. I don't care. It's a bunch of nameless jerseys, faces and helmets I can't see. I don't care who you got out there. When I played with the Steelers, it did not matter what, who, how, or anything was on the field. We didn't care about that. We didn't care who was on the field. We were going to do what we were going to do. It didn't matter if you had anybody else over there. We didn't care about what they were doing. We were going to do and take care of what we take care of. We were going to come off the rock, hit you in the mouth, and run the ball. If we needed a first down and we had to have it, we bring in Jerome Bettis. He'll give us the first down. We just knew that we can go out there and do things like that. Well, this coaching staff starting to think the same thing on the opposite side of the ball. We can run the ball 3 times and get a first down. We know we can get 3 here. We'll get 6 here, and we'll go get 5 here. That's a first down. And when you have that ability, that's the best defense against the opposing offense, because now you're on the field more than their offense is. Now you have the ability to score more than that offense does, because they're sitting on the sideline, and it becomes infectious, man. Because when you run in a rock like that and you're hitting them, and them defensive linemen starting to get up slower and slower, not only are you impose your will on that defense, but you look at the sideline. Watch the sideline next game. Watch how that defense, they're looking up like, look at that double team there. Oh, he got put on his back. They're looking at that, and they're getting hyped too, and they're ready to go out there like some crazy dogs and play just as hard as that offense is, because now they want to go make plays and show their offense up.
Absolutely, man. It's imposing your will. And, you brought something up else about Jalen too. I'm starting to think, and maybe, I think you even hit this too, man, is that, Wentz, because I've talked to Frank. I talked to Frank right the other day. He said Carson's really playing well, and he is playing well. I mean, they blew the doors off of the Bills this past weekend. But, what you said, Barrett, it just seems to me that Carson has to be coddled more. And where Jalen doesn't have to be coddled more. Look at the crap that he has taken in the first quarter pull of the season. Right. Everyone's saying this guy sucks. He's not the guy. He's not the dude. People were saying it then, the coach with the planting of the pot seeds or whatever the hell he was doing. Right. All that stuff. I mean, all of a sudden now, since the flower talk, they're 3-1, and I'm going like this, and I'm doing this. I'm going like, he's mentally tough because he had that job taken from him in Alabama. He had to sit there and listen to everybody. And by the way, I'm going to make this point because we'll talk more about Howie in a second. I got to tell you, man, Howie Roseman, when I was covering the team from 30,000 feet, Barrett, I looked down at it and I'm going like this, 2nd rounder, and they moved up. No freaking way is that guy a 2nd rounder. You know what? If you were to put him in the draft, this coming April draft, okay, I don't know if he's not at the back end of that first round now. I mean, right? I mean, right? The guy's coming out. Would you not go like this right now?
Oh, no question.
Hey, man, I might drop that guy down where Lamar was drafted.
Well, look, Dan, look at the quarterbacks that are out right now. Look at last year's this year's draft class. I don't believe that this draft class that's coming out right now is better than the draft class that's playing right now. I mean, I think that it just doesn't make sense to move on from a guy that he's better than the guys that they're going to bring and they won't go draft. You know, you see Howie with his, goggles or whatever it is, looking at the two quarterbacks, at the Pitt Carolina game. Those two are not anywhere close to what you see Jalen Hurts is.
No way.
And I don't think they will ever be to the same caliber as Jalen right now. So why start all over? And if you're going to go out and get a quarterback like, A-Rod or
Russell Wilson.
You don't know they want to come here. So why even think about it? Go ahead and keep watering the grass you got here. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Water this grass here. Let that grass grow.
You got 11, Barrett, you got 11 picks, okay? And you've got to have a come to Jesus conversation in that front office with this. Okay, man. We only have to give the guy $3.6 million over the next 2 years. Think about what we can do with $50 million under the cap by building the team, more depth on the linebacker position, maybe a free and strong safety, maybe more help in the O-line, maybe some more help with a running back. How about a veteran wideout on the other side of Devontae Smith? I mean, there's so many things and so many things you can do once you solidify that quarterback position. And the more he plays, the more I think they're doing this. Hey, man, I'm not even sure we draft a quarterback in the top 3 picks now. Maybe we do it 4, 5, and 6. And by the end of the year, they may be saying this. We don't have to draft a quarterback. You think this team's a playoff team?
I think, if they'd had this identity earlier on, we'd have a whole different conversation on what the draft is. Because, I mean, all right, I'm not really still sold on Howie and his ability as a talent evaluator. I think he needs to, listen more to football guys. But I will say this. He hit it right in his, the first 2 picks in this last draft, with the 2 Alabama guys. Because I was like, why are they going out and getting Landon Dickerson when they don't have a safety? I didn't know what they were going to do in free agency. And we don't have a linebacker. So with these 3 picks, you can definitely go and change the outlook of your defense. You can go get a turnkey defense that'll be yours for the next 10 years going, because you can get impact players at key position. How about a rush in? Yeah. How about a linebacker and maybe a safety or a cornerback? These are guys that can come in and make an instant impact right now. You've missed a lot, but this is the top 3 picks. You got to make sure these 3 first-round draft choices that you go with the defensive side of the ball and solidify this defense. You have to do it, man. You have to get some defenders in there that can come in and be game changers. Look what Dallas did. Dallas, the past 2 years, has solidified their defense, man. And with Parsons, Diggs, they invested in the defensive side of the ball. Their entire draft last year was defense. We have to do the same. We have to get some defenders in here because they signed 2 guys that they should have signed. And that's TJ Edwards, who changed the outlook on how you play the linebacker position in Philly these last 4 games. And also Avonte Maddox. You can now go out there and blitz now because Avonte, you're not scared on 3rd down that, he's going to get beat over the top, or Nelson or Slade's going to get beat over the top. When you have guys like that, use them the right way, you will be good, man. And they need to go out there and do that. They have to go get some impact defenders.
Do you move off of Fletcher Cox in the offseason? Highest paid guy, starting to age. By the way, remember the Richard Seymour deal that when Belichick was up in New England, he still had Pro Bowl years in Oakland with the Raiders when they moved him out there. But what you're trying to do is maybe you pay for some of the money when you ship him so that you can get a 3rd or 2nd rounder, because you can negotiate that, Barrett, as you know. You take Barrett, you give us a 3, we'll pay 25% of his salary. You're going to be 50 under the cap. You get that 3rd pick. You got yourself another premium pick. Is that something you think they're thinking about in the offseason? He is the highest paid Eagle.
They have to. They have to think about that and consider that. And, and it's not just – I mean, I understand he's still, he's still as an offensive coordinator. Yeah. As an offensive coordinator, you have to figure out where he's going to be at. So when you got your game plan, you have to figure out where Cox is. But is he that dynamic player that he was before? No, he's not. He's gotten a little older. But does he have value now? Yes, I think his value outside of the locker room is more value than inside of the locker room. his value can get you more to accomplish more long term as opposed to the right now. Yes, I do see that happening. I do see him as a guy that they're gonna flip in the off season, and by all rights they should, because he understands it's a business and it's a what have you done for me lately league, and the stats right now aren't reflective on who he is as a player. But you can get more worth. You can get your money's worth from him right now, and the way he's playing right now, that it'll be far greater than what you'll have in the future with him being on this team. Period.
Barrett, you brought up Howie, and let me throw this at you here. You're right. I said the same thing a couple weeks ago, but then I started writing this down. So he makes the move to get Darius Slay last year. Big play Slay. He was the highest, according to Pro Football Focus last week, he was the highest graded NFL player last week in the league.
Wow.
He brings him in. He gives a contract extension to Sweat, to Goddard, to Mulata, to Edwards. That 2018 draft is looking good. Did he miss on this Rieger kid? That kid stinks. I mean, he's just terrible, man. But you start looking at, and then the Jalen Hurts deal too. I know everyone looks at him. And by the way, I'm not going to throw rose petals at the guy's feet, but he is rebuilding the team. 50 under the cap next year projected, or 21 right now, 11 picks. The Slay move, the Hurts move, the re-signing and reinvesting. You mentioned the Steelers. One of the greatest things about the Steelers is this. They've had 3 head football coaches since 1969.
Yep.
That's it. And they invest in their own guys, Barrett.
Yep.
They always try to get to an athlete in the NFL's biggest dream is to get to his second contract.
Yep.
Once you get to your second contract, that's money in the bank for you, man. So, I mean, how do you look at him? Is he changing your opinion a little bit here? Because again, like you said, there have been numerous misses, but he is rebuilding the team on the fly. They're in the hunt for a playoff spot. He may have found his quarterback. That Slay move looks like it's really panning out. I mean,
well, I never had
my mind or not. I don't know what I sound like. I'm a Howie guy now.
Right. Well, you know what? I never thought of Howie being a bad GM, because I don't look at him as being a GM. I think he's a numbers guy, and he's great at numbers. He's great at manipulating the salary cap. He had people here that would help him out as far as who he needs to pick. He needs to rely more on guys like that are scouts. Andy Waddle, he's under that same Ravens tutelage. He's a great evaluator of talent. And as he goes farther and farther, start listening to Andy more, I think they'll have more and more picks that would help this team out. But him, as far as being an evaluator, let the guys do what they do. You do what you do. Let the other guys do what they do. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I've never had a bad I didn't think he was bad. I didn't think it was bad. I think he's great at what he does.
You think he gets in the way of his people?
Yes.
Okay.
Now that's definitely, and sometimes you think a little too highly of yourself. That'd be like me saying, all right, I'm gonna go out and, if I was a talent evaluator, I can evaluate talent. I've played against some of the greatest players in the world. I can see a guy's potential, a little better than maybe he can see it. But there's no way in the hell I go in there and think that I can evaluate a cap or tell if we do this is going to happen. We're going to bring this and this. I can't do that. But he's a master at that. So let him do what he does best and rely more on the opinions of people who understand a little more about athleticism, potential, the attributes that make him a great player and how he's going to equate to long-term on this team. Let others do that. Absolutely. That's the only thing I said. Yep.
Absolutely. The Giants game is around the corner. I want to get Barrett's thoughts on that. Nick Sirianni and his development. Jonathan Gannon on the other side of the ball.
That's what I want to talk to you about, man. Jonathan Gannon, man.
We're going to do that next. Big Sills is in for Harry Mays here with Barrett Brooks. You keep it right here on The Middle.